My company does mostly commercial and industrial roofing installations. We have invested a large amount of money in safety training and safety equipment. The right ingredient for us is safety, quality, productivity, in that order.
As you saw in part 2, a low-slope roof has a slope less than or equal to 4 and 12. OSHA has specific regulations and options available for low-slope installation work. And that's what part 3 of this program is all about. Let's get started.
OSHA's construction rules for low-slope roofs requires one of 3 types of conventional fall protection for construction workers: guardrails, safety nets, and personal fall arrest systems, or PFAs. However, roofing workers can also be protected by a warning line system and one of the 3 conventional systems, or a safety monitoring system. The purpose of the safety monitor is to protect workers when they are outside the warning line. OSHA permits a safety monitor alone to protect roofing workers when they are on a narrow roof that is 50 feet wide or less.
Here are some details on conventional fall protection options that OSHA permits for low-slope roof installations. Guardrails are commonly used for fall protection. Guardrails must have a top rail height of between 39 inches and 45 inches above the working surface. They must also have mid-rails installed midway between the top rail and the walking or working surface. Mid-rails must be in place whenever there is no parapet wall at the guarded edge that is at least 21 inches high. The guardrail had better be sturdy too. The top rail must be able to support a 200-pound weight without deflecting downward to less than 39 inches. The mid-rail must be able to support a weight of 150 pounds in a downward or outward direction. Toe boards, if required, can't be more than 1/4 inch off the surface and must be at least 3.5 inches high, nominal 1x4 or 2x4 lumber. A guardrail can be made of wire rope or aircraft cable if it's at least 1/4 inch thick and flagged at minimum 6-foot intervals while maintaining the height and strength requirements.
Here's another important requirement. If there's an opening in the guardrail system for access or material handling, the area must be guarded and blocked off when it's not in use. A chain or gate is acceptable for this. Quite often, a low-slope roof will have a parapet wall. A parapet can act as a guardrail if it's at least 39 inches high. It can serve as a mid-rail if it's at least 21 inches high. Safety net systems are not very common on most roofing job sites, but they are used for high-rise construction work, and that includes some roof installations. If a safety net system is used for roofing work, OSHA requires it to be installed as close as possible to the working surface. The farther down a safety net is placed, the farther out it must be extended to catch a worker who falls. For example, if the safety net is located at the maximum 30 feet below the working surface, the net must extend out at least 13 feet.
Once the safety net is installed, OSHA requires that it be tested by dropping a 400-pound bag of sand into it. The drop test must be done anytime the net is installed, moved to another location, or after any repairs. Safety nets must have a border rope for webbing with a minimum breaking strength of 5,000 pounds. The safety net openings can't exceed 36 square inches or 6 inches on any side. When you're working at heights like this, don't take any chances.
Now, let's take a closer look at a common type of fall protection used in the roofing industry, the Personal Fall Arrest System, or PFA. The PFA comprises an anchor, connectors, and a body harness. A PFA can also include a lanyard, lifeline, and deceleration device. A body harness is secured around the worker with straps attached at the chest and legs. The harness is attached to a lanyard, lifeline, or deceleration device. A deceleration device will help prevent a fall victim from being injured from impact forces from the fall. A body harness distributes fall arrest forces across the body. A body belt concentrates those forces at the waist with a greater potential for injury. That is why body belts are not permitted for PFAs. For the same reason, the harness D-ring that attaches to a lanyard, lifeline, and anchor must be located on the back of the harness to effectively distribute arresting forces. A PFA must be rigged so that the worker wearing it is prevented from free falling more than 6 feet or making contact with any lower level. Free falling is the act of falling before the PFA system begins to arrest the fall. As with other safety equipment, PFA components must be inspected before each use. If a PFA is used to arrest a fall, it must then be taken out of service and thoroughly inspected before it's worn again. If it's damaged, it must be discarded. OSHA regulations also require that PFA components like anchors and connectors be able to bear a load of 5,000 pounds. According to OSHA, lanyards and lifelines must have a minimum breaking strength of 5,000 pounds unless the lanyard or lifelines are self-retracting and limit free falls to 2 feet. In that case, they are required to bear only 3,000 pounds of force. Ropes and straps that compose lifelines and lanyards must be made of synthetic fiber and have no cuts or abrasions. Here's another important regulation. When lifelines are in use, each worker must be attached to a separate lifeline. You already know about anchor strength. Anchor placement is also critical. The anchor should be installed so that a worker is directly below the anchor location. That will help prevent a swing fall, a pendulum-like motion, which can be dangerous to the person wearing the PFA if he falls. Anchors should always be secured into structural building components like a ridge or a rafter. Okay, you've seen how the components of a PFA work together to help keep you safe. But you also need to know more about calculated clearance. That's the minimum effective height that a PFA will safely stop a fall. Here's how you determine that height. Add the free fall distance, including the height of the worker above the working surface measured to his back D-ring. The maximum 3.5 feet of lanyard deceleration distance, harness and lifeline elongation of 1 foot, and 1 to 2 feet of additional height as a safety factor. If the number you get is greater than the distance to the ground or a lower level, the PFA will not protect you.
It may sound complicated, like a fancy recipe for safety, but if you're going to use a PFA, you have to know how to determine calculated clearance. There is another fall protection option that avoids this particular calculation.
You can set it up as a personal fall restraint system. This fall restraint system is rigged so that a worker is not able to reach the unprotected edge to fall. On a low-slope roof, another type of fall protection provided under the OSHA standard is a combination of warning lines and other systems like a PFA, guardrails, safety nets, or a safety monitoring system. A warning line separates the work area from the edge of the roof. Roof mechanics inside the warning line area don't require conventional fall protection. When workers do need to work outside the warning line, between the line and the roof edge, additional fall protection like guardrails, PFAs, or a safety monitor is required.
Here are some more details about their use. Warning lines must be set up around the entire work area. No mechanical equipment can be used or stored outside the warning line. The warning line must be at least 6 feet from every edge. If mechanical equipment is in use, the warning line that is perpendicular to the equipment's line of travel must be at least 10 feet from the roof edge. Warning lines must be made of wire, rope, or chains, and they must be flagged every 6 feet. Warning lines must be supported by stanchions that can withstand 16 pounds of tipping force. OSHA also requires that a warning line be between 34 inches and 39 inches high and have a minimum tensile strength of 500 pounds. Access areas are a potential hazard. If you're not careful, you could fall.
Material handling areas and storage areas must be connected to the work area by an access path formed by 2 parallel warning lines. When those paths are not being used, OSHA requires them to be barricaded, chained off, or offset to prevent anyone from entering. The warning line system helps protect workers from falls while working inside the lines. Whenever a worker is required to be outside a warning line, a roofing contractor must designate a competent person as a safety monitor. The safety monitor must always be within sight of the worker outside the warning line. It's a serious task, and the safety monitor must be competent to recognize fall hazards and warn workers when they are unaware of a fall hazard. The safety monitor must be close to workers who are outside the warning line so they can hear him speak. And he must be on the same working level as the workers and visible to them. Also, the safety monitor cannot have any other responsibilities that could distract him from watching workers outside the warning line.
Because OSHA doesn't specify the number of workers the safety monitor can watch, the best strategy is to make sure that all workers outside the warning line can be seen by the safety monitor and that he can be clearly heard by each of them.
You've become familiar with basic fall protection for low-slope roof systems, but there are special considerations, other potential hazards that are addressed by OSHA regulations. For example, hoist areas or locations on the roof where debris is removed are just two places where extra attention must be paid to prevent falls. Guardrails or PFA systems must be used by workers at hoist areas that are 6 feet or more above the ground or lower level. When PFAs are used in hoist areas, or if a section of the guardrail has to be removed so a worker can lean out to guide materials, then that worker must be wearing a PFA rigged-in fall restraint to allow worker movement only to the roof edge. According to OSHA, materials cannot be dropped from a roof unless the area is protected by a guardrail or if workers use PFAs. In Subpart H, OSHA also notes that an enclosed chute is required if materials are dropped more than 20 feet from a roof. The chute's opening must also be protected by a guardrail. Holes in skylights are also potential hazards. You'll remember from Part 2 that a hole is defined by OSHA as any gap of 2 inches or more in a walking or working level.
A hole in a roof is dangerous, and workers must be protected from tripping over, falling, or stepping into them by guardrail systems, covers, or by wearing personal fall arrest systems. If it is possible that objects could fall on workers below, toe boards added to guardrails or covers are to be used.
Covers must be attached securely and marked using a color-coded system or with the word hole or cover. A cover must be sturdy and able to support twice the weight of a person or materials.
In Michigan, the requirements for working around a hole follow the federal rules. But there are unique rules for holes encountered during low-slope roofing operations. Roofing workers in Michigan can be protected around holes in skylights by one of the conventional fall protection systems or the use of warning lines, specifically warning lines and guardrail systems, warning lines and safety net systems, warning lines and personal fall arrest systems, warning lines and safety monitoring systems, or on roofs 50 feet or less in width, by the use of safety monitors alone can be used. New innovative technology can present additional fall protection challenges on low-slope roofs. Photovoltaic roof systems that generate electricity and vegetative roof systems that can help conserve energy, among other benefits, introduce some unique issues to roofing contractors installing or maintaining these roof systems on low-slope roofs. For example, these systems may be installed in a way that restricts roof access by, say, reducing a pathway near roof edge to just a foot or two. Fall protection methods may be similarly restricted if, for example, warning lines cannot be placed at an appropriate distance from the roof edge because of photovoltaic components or vegetative elements.
We've reached the end of Part 3 and covered a lot of information about fall protection for low-slope roofs.
Before we move on, let's quickly review.
You became familiar with OSHA's fall protection regulations for low-slope roofs, including guardrails, safety nets, and personal fall arrest systems, or PFAs. You learned how to calculate the safe clearance for a PFA and checked out a common recipe for fall protection, a combination of warning lines and safety monitoring systems. You also saw how workers are protected from falls through holes, skylights, and hoist areas.
You're ready to move on to part 4.
That's about fall protection for steep slope roofs.
See you there.